And action.
Hi, I'm Billy Joe, and I'm here today just to have some conversation. I'm also going to make baklava. You'll see it done. The ingredients that I have with me so far. You have to start with the phyllo dough. Phyllo, Kevin says they don't know how to spell it, but it's phyllo, if you otherwise. And comes out in these sheets. They're very, very, very thin sheets of pastry. No butter, melted. Ground walnuts, cinnamon, and sugar mixed together. Phyllo dough is apt to dry out if you leave it, so you can cover it with a towel. If you're quick with the process and familiar with the tools, you can leave the towel out of the equation. Don't get distracted. It dries out, it falls apart. Okay. Conversation that we're going to have tonight while I'm working on this. I was thinking about layers, adding layers. You know, I've talked to you before about the wheel of life and how it represents your life. You know, I talked about it in terms of pie and how the different flavors of pie are what add variety to our life. You know, it represents your life. It is not your life. It's just kind of a way to sort things out, a way to see a certain perspective, a different perspective. And I was thinking about how you could also look at it, your life, horizontally. And it also might represent just a way of seeing a different perspective. And the layers that we add to our lives become the outcome of our life. The parts you put into it will the parts you put into it will create the piece that you take out of it. Perspectives are one of my favorite things. I like to look for different ways to think about things, to see things. I have run across people who don't like that. They don't like different perspectives, at least not the ones that aren't their own opinion, their own perspective, the one that they agree with, that matches. People who want to be alone on Facebook with their opinion, their perspective. It's like, if you don't like mine, there's the door. As if an alignment of values was a reason to leave. When the sharing of perspectives or opinions or ways of looking at things can be a way to gain understanding of other people in this world. I've seen it. There are lots of different ways to think about things and look at things, and different perspectives can bring you clarity on different subjects in different ways. You can consider the Ooda loop, which is observe, decide, act, orient. Not necessarily in that order. I learned about the Ooda loop when I went to a training put on by the local police department for like a live shooter situation. That was good training. That he talked about the Ooda loop in the terms of the ways that we see our surroundings, what's going on, how we react, different ways to look at things. Also, the scientific method, which also you have observations. You have a hypothesis and you test. You know, you observe, you decide, you act. I'm not being real gentle here. Our orientation shapes the way that we observe, the way that we decide, the way that we act. In like the training talked about, that there are just people who are built. Their orientations, they're just built. They're going to hide behind a chair or something. And then some people will, their orientation will lead them to, I'm going to leave right now. Everybody's different. different ways of looking at things. When I was in college, years ago, I have a 20-plus-year-old degree in elementary education. And I never really was a teacher. I did a lot of teaching, though. Anyway, when I was in college, I became interested in Maslow's theory of the basic human needs. You know, the self-actualization, how we get there. One way to look at things. You know, another way to look at things is the a la Tony Robbins, that we are all just seeking to avoid pain. Lots of different ways to look at things. The reason that I'm having conversations with you is because Kevin gets full up of listening to me talk about this stuff. And, you know, the live studio audience here, we have a dog that wants in. We have Kevin here. If you guys don't know Kevin, you can check him out. I hope this works, our homestead, and making sawdust, hashtag wood is love. He says sometimes, if I understood half the stuff you were saying, I'd think I was a really smart guy. He cracks me up. Oh. Trick to making baklava. The directions are sometimes on the back of the box. It's not like a national secret. I have a recipe, but I'm just trying to remember the steps. I always make extra butter and extra cinnamon, sugar, and walnuts. I always make extra batches. So it matters. Let's not do that yet. Because I always run out if I make what it says on the recipe. I may be a little heavy-handed, but it works this way. One of my favorite things to do is to have conversation. Kevin is one of my favorite conversationalists. That's one of the reasons I have Kevin. And he could carry on good conversation. We could talk about stuff. There are a lot of conversations I want to have. I went to a Bible study once, and one of the questions that we talked about was, what do you see as, you know, heaven? So you think of the best thing that you can possibly think of, and it's better than that, but, you know, my idea of heaven is a cozy little kitchen, well-stocked, where folks just drop by for coffee and a snack, and we have conversations that we never got to have, or, you know, people you never met. You know, find out all the ways that people's lives intersect. I think it'd be fascinating. Anyway. I made a video of myself making baklava in college. I can't remember what the class was. It was like early childhood or something. Dr. Ruth Doyle, she was awesome. But she had this way of doing her classes where she really didn't give detailed instructions. You know, we did scientific theory type papers, and she would just leave things open, which led to very scared and confused high school or college students sometimes, but it also led to some brilliance, you know, when you remove the rules and just allow for what can happen. It was a great class. But anyway, I did a video of myself making baklava in the room to when they watched it. I couldn't, you know, it's like listening to your own voice on tape, you know. I did a video recently on my 2019 goals, and I could have talked seriously all day about 2019 goals, but I wanted to keep it brief. And one of my big ones for 2019, goes along with the homesteading, goes along with my values to build a business of my own. I thought years and years ago when I worked at a large insurance company for a wonderful representative. Even then, I did that for a while. It occurred to me that with what I put into working for somebody else, if I could work for myself and give myself the 150%, I could probably do some stuff. Combine that with one of these days, working for somebody, I want somebody to give me a brand that I could stand behind 100%, and I will do it, okay? And then years later realize that I could be that brand, okay? I am going to create a business, a life coaching business. I'm also a writer, so I'm doing, looking to do some things like that, get things published, put things in front of people, and build my baskets. Homesteading is about self-sufficiency. I think that as we work on our systems, and we're not a very old homestead, couple years, and the systems, we're working them out. Part of the systems is our tiny little investments, using what we got. Finding outside the box ways to do things. About 3 years ago, I started a journey. It occurred to me at some point there, I wish I could remember the moment, exactly what led to that thought, but when I realized what a life coach is, I went, wow, that is exactly what I need to be doing. It fits so many parts of me. The way that I like to connect with people, and the way that I interact with people, how I want to help people, the ways in which I thought for a long time that I might I could get a second degree. I would have loved to at one point get a master's degree in like counseling or be a therapist or something like that. And have found since that, like Martin Seligman, the godfather of positive psychology, to paraphrase, one of my goals in life is to add to the tonnage of human happiness on the planet. When I thought about being a counselor or a therapist or whatever, I could never contemplate the way that I would be it. There are so many options, okay? And I never could see it. I think something about the unhappiness that is rampant. Life coaches deal in achievement of happy people, transformation. So I went on this journey, I started this journey years ago, becoming, learning, decided that coaching would be the best way for me to be the best Billy Joe that I could possibly be, self-actualizing and all that. And it fulfills my missive, which honestly is to love on people. So I set out to find out what coaching was all about, and I immersed myself in the coaching world with coaches, and branding artists, and you name it. Taken tiny little investments, got a book, read the book, applied the things, practiced. Occasional master class, somebody else has to teach me, somebody that has already done something like this and learned some things. I started figuring out what a life coach really is. It's a truly singular relationship. How many people in your life pose the question, what do you want? What do you want to get out of this? What do you really want? Does your significant other? Does the gal that's taken your order, do you want fries with that? It does not equate to what do you want. It's kind of an uncomfortable question when it really is posed by somebody. What is it that you want? It's not something you get asked often. If I ask you, what do you want? Do you imagine the outrageous, the seemingly impossible? Or are you stuck trying to think of anything at all? You know, I'd love to break it down with you. What's important to you? Coaching is about building relationships. And I'm into it, you know. I want to create a non-judgmental, safe space for holding vulnerability, openness, courage, and allow for transformation, for clarity, for understanding, for getting intimate with oneself, you know. Things, magic things can happen. You put people together. And that is a layered baklava. There are more steps than this. This isn't a quick process. That was pretty easy. I don't think I jacked anything up. This goes into a 350-degree oven for about 45 minutes. Then there are more steps, so come back. Thanks for sticking around. I have baked the baklava at 350 degrees for about half an hour, and then I turned it down to 300 degrees for about another half an hour. Let it cool overnight. Prepared a simple syrup, which is honey, sugar, water, a little bit of lemon juice, and some cinnamon sticks. The final process is to pour the sweet and sticky on top of the dry and flaky. You want to be careful when you're working with hot sugar. Don't let it boil over. That will create a mess like you have never seen. And it'll just soak it up. The longer the better with baklava. There we go. For 2020, within the year 2020, I want to be able to practice all of my 7 kinds of smoke, my nests. I want to know what they are. I alone cannot fully grasp my nests. I must gain reflection from others. Part of what I need to do is get to know who my tribe is, what their perceptions are, and find out what reminders they need. If you would, continue along with me in my conversations. Also, let me know, what do you want to talk about? I'll see you here. Thanks for coming. I hope you'll join me again for some conversations with Billy Joe.